The discovery. The scrapyard stretched endlessly under twin moons, a graveyard of metal and dreams where starships came to die. Marcus Chen wiped grease from his hands with a torn rag, the fabric already black with years of accumulated engine oil and hydraulic fluid. At 42, he had spent half his life among the twisted hulks of decommissioned vessels, salvaging what he could sell and fixing what others deemed beyond repair. The Kepler Station scrapyard was humanity's largest ship graveyard, orbiting a dead world on the edge of civilized space. Most people avoided the place, finding it depressing. Marcus found it peaceful. Here, among the silent giants of space travel, he could work without interruption, without judgment, without the constant reminder that he was one of the few humans who had never left their home system. Tonight felt different. The emergency beacon had been pinging for 3 days from Sector 7, the deepest part of the yard where the oldest wrecks rested. Marcus had ignored it initially, assuming it was another false alarm from a dying power cell. But the signal persisted, growing stronger rather than weaker. Finally, curiosity overcame his better judgment. His maintenance skiff hummed quietly through the maze of dead ships. Destroyers from the colony wars sat beside luxury yachts that had seen better centuries. A massive cargo hauler, its hull cracked open like an egg, revealed empty holds that had once carried hopes and dreams to distant worlds. Marcus navigated by memory and instinct, following the beacon's pulse deeper into the metallic labyrinth. The signal led him to a section he rarely visited, where experimental ships and alien vessels were stored. The Galactic Council had strict protocols about such things, but enforcement was lax this far from the core worlds. Most of the alien ships were simply too strange for human salvage crews to understand, their technology based on principles that defied human comprehension. The beacon's source materialized from the shadows between two massive structures. A ship unlike anything Marcus had seen before floated tethered to a maintenance platform. Its design was organic, flowing like living tissue frozen in metal. The hull shimmered with an opalescent quality that seemed to shift colors as he approached. Even in the dim light of his skiff's headlamps, the vessel seemed to pulse with inner life. Marcus had heard stories about the ethereals, an ancient race that had vanished from the galaxy millions of years ago. Their ships occasionally turned up in deep space, usually empty and inert. The Galactic Council claimed them as cultural artifacts, but this far out, salvage rights were often ignored. Someone had clearly intended to study this vessel before abandoning it here. The airlock was partially open, a violation of safety protocols that made Marcus hesitate. The ship could be contaminated, dangerous, or worse. But the beacon continued its urgent pulse, and something about the rhythm reminded him of a heartbeat, a distress call from something still alive. His conscience won the battle with his common sense. The ship's interior defied expectations. Instead of corridors and chambers, organic passages curved and branched like arteries. Bioluminescent strips provided soft, pulsing light that responded to his presence. The air was breathable, but carried strange scents of ozone and something floral he couldn't identify. Every surface felt warm to the touch, as if the ship itself maintained body temperature. Following the beacon's signal, Marcus moved deeper into the vessel. The passages narrowed and widened, seemingly at random, sometimes forcing him to crawl, other times opening into cathedral-like spaces. Strange symbols covered the walls, shifting and changing when he wasn't looking directly at them. The technology was clearly beyond human understanding, but there was something almost familiar about it, as if it operated on instincts rather than logic. The beacon led him to what appeared to be a nursery. Soft, pod-like structures lined the walls, most of them dark and empty. But one glowed with warm amber light, and from within came the source of the distress signal. Marcus approached carefully, his breath catching as he peered through the translucent material. Inside the pod lay a creature that belonged in ancient myths rather than the cold reality of space. A dragon, no larger than a house cat, its scales pale as moonlight. Its body was perfectly formed despite its size, with delicate wings folded against tiny flanks and a serpentine neck that curved gracefully even in sleep. But something was terribly wrong. The dragon's entire body was covered in what looked like metallic barnacles. They clustered thickest around the creature's joints and wing membranes, pulsing with an alien rhythm that matched no heartbeat Marcus had ever known. The growths seemed to be feeding on the dragon, drawing away its life force with each pulse. As Marcus watched, the creature's breathing became more labored. He had seen similar parasites before, though never on a living creature. The Zarathi were a spacefaring race known for their biotechnology and their habit of claiming other species as subjects for experimentation. Their organic machines could bond with any living tissue, slowly converting the host into something that served their purposes. The Barnacles were Zarathi tech, clearly some kind of research implants. The pod's control interface was intuitive despite being alien. Marcus's hands moved over the smooth surfaces, guided more by instinct than understanding. The amber light pulsed brighter as the pod began to open with a soft sigh. The dragon's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises like liquid mercury. Intelligence looked back at him, along with pain and desperate hope. The creature tried to move, but collapsed immediately. The Barnacles had been draining its strength for what appeared to be months. Its scales, which should have been lustrous white, were dull and lifeless. When it attempted to spread its wings, the membranes tore slightly where the alien devices had grown into the tissue. Marcus had always been good with broken things. Engines, life support systems, artificial gravity generators, he could fix them all. But this was different. This was a living being, and not just any being, but something that shouldn't exist outside of Earth's oldest legends. Dragons were myth, fairy tale, fantasy made real only in human imagination. Yet here one lay dying before him. And the same instincts that guided his hands when repairing starship engines told him he might be able to help. The dragon's breathing grew shallower. Whatever the Zarathi had done to it, the process was accelerating. The Barnacles pulsed faster now, their alien rhythm becoming more urgent. Marcus realized he was witnessing the final phase of some experiment, the moment when the parasites would complete their transformation of the host. He couldn't let that happen. Marcus gathered the tiny dragon carefully in his arms, feeling how light it had become. Its body temperature was too low, and he could feel the alien devices working beneath its skin like tiny engines of conversion. The creature looked up at him with eyes that held no fear, only a weary acceptance of whatever fate awaited. "Not today," Marcus whispered, surprised by the intensity of his own conviction. "Whatever they did to you, we're going to undo it." The dragon's eyes widened slightly, as if it understood. Then it closed them again, too weak to maintain consciousness. The Barnacles continued their work, but Marcus was already planning. His mind raced through possibilities, remembering techniques he had learned for removing alien technology from salvaged ships. The principles might be similar, though the stakes were infinitely higher. He carried the dragon back through the organic corridors of the ethereal ship, moving as quickly as caution would allow. The vessel seemed to sense his urgency, the bioluminescent strips pulsing brighter to light his way. When he reached his skiff, Marcus created a makeshift nest from thermal blankets, trying to keep the creature warm and stable for the journey back to his workshop. The scrapyard had never felt so vast. Every moment of the return trip, Marcus expected to feel the tiny body in his arms go still. But the dragon held on, its breathing remaining steady if shallow. The Barnacles continued their alien work, but something in their rhythm had changed. Perhaps being removed from the ship had disrupted their connection to whatever network controlled them. Marcus's workshop occupied a converted cargo bay in one of the larger derelicts. He had spent years making it both comfortable and functional, installing salvaged life support systems and jury-rigging equipment from a dozen different species technologies. Now he laid the Dragon on his main workbench, under the bright examination lights he used for delicate repair work. Under better illumination, the extent of the alien infestation became clear. The barnacles weren't just attached to the skin, they had grown into the Dragon's nervous system. Thin metallic threads extended from each device, burrowing deep into muscle and bone. The network was incredibly complex, a web of alien technology that had essentially hijacked the creature's biology. Marcus had dealt with Zarathi tech before, usually when removing it from salvaged ships. The devices were designed to be permanent, to resist any attempt at removal. They would fight back, potentially killing their host rather than allow themselves to be extracted. But Marcus had learned their weaknesses over the years, the subtle ways to convince the alien systems to release their hold. The process would take time, patience, and no small amount of luck. But as he looked down at the tiny dragon, breathing so slowly in the bright light of his workshop, Marcus felt a determination he hadn't experienced in years. This creature represented something impossible, something that challenged everything he thought he knew about the universe. And he was damned if he was going to let some alien parasite destroy it. He began gathering tools, his mind already working through the delicate procedure ahead. The barnacles pulsed with increasing urgency, as if they sensed the threat to their work. But Marcus had faced alien technology before, and he had always found a way to make it bend to human stubbornness. Tonight would be no different. The dragon's eyes opened briefly as he worked, meeting his gaze with that strange intelligence. In that moment, Marcus felt a connection he couldn't explain. A bond forming between human determination and something far older than either of their species. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The real work was about to begin. The healing Marcus had not slept in 36 hours. His eyes burned from the intense work under the examination lights, but each time exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him, he looked at the tiny dragon and found new reserves of energy. The creature had stabilized somewhat, its breathing more regular, though the alien barnacles continued their sinister work with mechanical persistence. The first breakthrough came when Marcus discovered the barnacles' communication frequency. Using a salvaged Cortex scanner, he detected the low-level electromagnetic pulses the devices used to coordinate their activities. The revelation changed everything. Instead of attacking them individually, he could potentially disrupt their network connection. He had learned this technique years ago when removing Zarathi spyware from a diplomatic vessel. The alien systems always maintained contact with each other, sharing data and coordinating responses. Disrupt that communication, and they became confused, vulnerable. The trick was finding the right frequency without triggering their self-destruct protocols. The dragon watched him work with those remarkable silver eyes. Marcus had begun talking to it, partly to stay awake and partly because he sensed intelligence behind that ancient gaze. The creature seemed to understand, occasionally shifting position to give him better access to particularly difficult barnacles. "These things are tough," Marcus muttered, adjusting the frequency generator for the 100th time. "But they're not smarter than human stubbornness. We've been taking apart alien tech since before your species learned to fly between stars." The dragon made a soft sound, almost like a purr. The noise was oddly comforting in the otherwise silent workshop. Marcus realized he had been unconsciously timing his work to match the creature's breathing, finding a rhythm that helped his concentration. The frequency generator suddenly locked onto the barnacle's communication channel. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The metallic parasites began pulsing erratically, their coordinated rhythm dissolving into chaos. Several of the smaller ones loosened their grip slightly, giving Marcus his first real opportunity to begin extraction. Working with microsurgical tools salvaged from a medical transport, Marcus began the delicate process of separating the alien devices from living tissue. Each barnacle had grown an intricate network of filaments into the dragon's nervous system, requiring careful disconnection to avoid permanent damage. The work was incredibly precise, demanding absolute steadiness of hand. The dragon remained perfectly still during the procedure, as if it understood that any movement could be catastrophic. Marcus found himself impressed by the creature's trust and intelligence. Most animals would have panicked or tried to escape. This being seemed to comprehend not just the danger of its situation, but the nature of the help being offered. Hours passed in intense concentration. One by one, the barnacles came free, each extraction requiring careful mapping of neural connections before cutting the alien filaments. Marcus discovered that the devices had been recording everything, storing vast amounts of data about the dragon's biology and what appeared to be genetic memories of its species. The Zarathi weren't just experimenting, they were harvesting. The dragon represented something incredibly valuable to them, though Marcus couldn't understand why. Dragons were myth, legend, stories humans told around fires long before they reached for the stars. Yet here was proof that somewhere in the galaxy, they were real. As more barnacles were removed, the dragon's coloration began to improve. Its scales started showing hints of their natural luster, a pearl white that seemed to hold inner light. The creature's breathing deepened, and Marcus caught glimpses of personality emerging from behind the pain and weakness. The dragon was curious. Whenever Marcus paused in his work, the creature would crane its neck to examine the tools and equipment surrounding them. It showed particular interest in the quantum resonance scanner Marcus used to map the barnacle's internal structure. The device seemed to fascinate the dragon, who watched the readouts with obvious intelligence. "You understand technology," Marcus observed, noting how the dragon's eyes tracked the scanner's holographic displays. "Your people weren't primitive when the Zarathi found you." The dragon met his gaze and nodded, a startlingly human gesture that confirmed Marcus's growing suspicions about the creature's intelligence. This wasn't just an animal, it was a person, a being with thoughts, feelings, and probably a complex understanding of the universe that might exceed his own. The revelation made the rescue even more urgent. The Zarathi hadn't just been experimenting on an alien creature, they had been torturing a sentient being for their research. The thought filled Marcus with cold anger that steadied his hands during the most delicate extractions. By the 20th hour, Marcus had removed roughly half the barnacles. The dragon was markedly stronger, able to lift its head for extended periods and even make small movements with its wings. But the largest devices, clustered around the creature's heart and brain, remained. These would be the most dangerous to remove and the most critical. Marcus took a break, forcing himself to eat and hydrate. The dragon watched him with interest, particularly when he opened a protein ration pack. On impulse, Marcus offered a small piece of the synthetic meat. The dragon sniffed delicately, then accepted the food with obvious gratitude. "Probably not what your kind usually eats," Marcus said, watching the creature consume the ration with careful precision. "But it should help you regain strength." The dragon finished the food and made that purring sound again. Marcus found himself smiling for the first time in days. Despite everything, despite the alien technology and impossible circumstances, this felt familiar. He was helping someone who needed help, using skills he had developed over years of patient work. Returning to the extraction, Marcus faced the barnacles around the dragon's heart. These devices were larger and more complex, their filaments intertwined with major neural pathways. The slightest mistake could kill the creature instantly. But leaving them in place would mean eventual death as well, as the alien systems completed their unknown purpose. Marcus steadied his hands and began the most delicate work of his life. The cardiac barnacles came free one at a time over the course of 6 hours. Each extraction required careful monitoring of the dragon's life signs, ready to abort if anything went wrong. But the creature remained steady, its trust in Marcus absolute. That confidence proved infectious, helping Marcus maintain the precision needed for such delicate work. With the cardiac devices removed, the dragon's improvement was dramatic. Color returned to its scales in waves, revealing intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid light. Its wings, no longer constrained by alien filaments, spread slightly to reveal membranes of incredible delicacy and beauty. The final challenge lay ahead. The neural barnacles clustered around the dragon's brain and spine. These were the most sophisticated devices, clearly designed to interface directly with consciousness itself. Removing them would require not just surgical skill, but an understanding of how the alien technology interacted with the dragon's unique neurology. Marcus studied the creature's brain patterns, using every scanner in his workshop. What he found amazed him. The dragon's neural activity was incredibly complex, showing patterns he had only seen in the most advanced artificial intelligences. But there was something more, something that registered as familiar despite being utterly alien. The dragon was telepathic. The revelation came when Marcus accidentally brushed against one of the neural barnacles while it was still active. For a brief moment, he felt the creature's thoughts as clearly as his own. Pain, yes, but also gratitude, curiosity, and something that could only be described as hope. The dragon believed in him, trusted him completely, despite having known him for less than 2 days. The contact revealed something else. Images flashed through Marcus's mind, memories that belonged to the dragon, a world of crystal spires and floating cities. Beings like itself, soaring between buildings that seemed to grow rather than being constructed. A civilization of incredible beauty and sophistication that had somehow vanished from the galaxy. The Zarathi had been trying to access those memories. The neural barnacles were designed to extract and decode genetic memories spanning thousands of generations. They were searching for something specific, some knowledge that the dragon's people had possessed. Marcus understood now why the rescue was so important. This wasn't just about saving one creature, it was about preserving the last remnant of an entire civilization. The dragon might be the only survivor of its kind, carrying within its mind the accumulated wisdom of its entire species. The neural extractions took another full day. Marcus worked with obsessive care, mapping each connection before severing the alien filaments. The dragon helped when it could, using its newfound telepathic connection to guide his hands away from critical neural pathways. The partnership between human skill and dragon knowledge made possible what neither could have accomplished alone. As the final barnacle came free, Marcus felt the moment of liberation through their mental link. The dragon's consciousness expanded like a flower opening to sunlight, no longer constrained by alien devices. Its first independent thought in months was a pulse of pure gratitude that brought tears to Marcus's eyes. The dragon stretched its wings fully for the first time, revealing a wingspan that seemed impossibly large for its body size. The membranes caught the workshop's light and threw back rainbows, as if the creature's very being was made of crystallized starlight. When it turned those silver eyes on Marcus, he saw depths of intelligence and wisdom that made him feel like a child. But there was warmth there, too. Affection for the strange human who had spent days carefully freeing it from technological bondage. The dragon understood what Marcus had sacrificed to save it, the risks he had taken, the skills he had employed. In its ancient mind, the human had proven something about his species that would not be forgotten. The dragon spoke then, not with voice, but directly into Marcus's mind. The words came as concepts and emotions rather than language, but their meaning was unmistakable. "Thank you, friend of the small and broken. Your kindness will be remembered when the stars themselves have grown cold." Marcus smiled, reaching out to gently stroke the dragon's neck. The scales were warm and surprisingly soft, almost like fine leather. The creature leaned into the touch, that purring sound growing stronger. "What happens now?" Marcus asked aloud, though he knew the dragon could hear his thoughts as clearly as spoken words. The answer came as a mixture of sadness and determination. The dragon had work to do, a purpose that had driven it across the galaxy before the Zarathi captured it. There were others of its kind, hidden and sleeping, waiting for someone to wake them. The dragon's people had not vanished, they had retreated, waiting for the galaxy to become safe enough for their return. But first, there was something the dragon wanted to give its rescuer. A gift that would change everything Marcus thought he knew about the universe and about humanity's place within it. The dragon's eyes began to glow with inner light as it prepared to share the most precious thing it possessed: hope for the future. The Awakening. The dragon's gift came as a flood of images and sensations that overwhelmed Marcus's human mind. Through their telepathic connection, he experienced memories that spanned millennia, seeing the rise and fall of civilizations across the galaxy. He witnessed the dragon's people at the height of their power, beings of incredible wisdom who had learned to blend technology with organic life in ways that seemed magical. They called themselves the Ashkari, the Eternal Watchers. For millions of years they had guided younger species, offering knowledge and protection to those who showed promise. They had watched humanity's first tentative steps into space, had debated whether to make contact when humans developed faster than light travel. But then came the Dominion Wars, conflicts that raged across the galaxy for centuries. The Ashkari, despite their power, found themselves targets for species that coveted their knowledge and longevity. Rather than fight a war that would devastate countless worlds, they chose a different path. They went into hiding, using their mastery of biological technology to enter hibernation while waiting for the galaxy to find peace. The dragon Marcus had rescued was named Kyreth, one of the youngest of its kind and designated as a watcher. While the others slept, Kyreth had remained awake, monitoring the galaxy for signs that it was safe for the Ashkari to return. But something had gone wrong. The hibernation sites had been discovered by various species, including the Zarathi. The alien scientists had been systematically hunting down sleeping Ashkari, studying their biology, and trying to unlock the secrets of their longevity and wisdom. Kyreth had been captured while investigating one such site, spending months as a test subject before being abandoned in the ethereal ship when the research station was attacked by unknown forces. Marcus absorbed these revelations with growing horror and determination. The galaxy's greatest treasures, beings who represented millions of years of accumulated wisdom, were being harvested like resources by those too short-sighted to understand their value. "How many are left?" Marcus asked through their mental link. Kyreth's answer came tinged with sadness. Perhaps 1,000, scattered across dozens of hidden sites throughout the galaxy. Most were in deep hibernation and would die if awakened improperly. A few, like Kyreth, had been captured for experimentation. The species that had once numbered in the hundreds of thousands was facing extinction at the hands of those they had once tried to protect. But Kyreth had learned something during its captivity that changed everything. The Zarathi weren't working alone. They were part of a larger conspiracy, multiple species cooperating to harvest Ashkari knowledge before their presence could be detected by the Galactic Council. The conspiracy reached high into the Council itself, making traditional diplomatic solutions impossible. What can one human mechanic do against something like that? Marcus wondered aloud. The dragon's response surprised him. Humans, Kyreth explained, were unique among the galaxy's younger species. They possessed a combination of curiosity, stubbornness, and ethical flexibility that made them ideal for the kind of work that needed to be done. The Ashkari had been watching humanity for centuries, noting their remarkable ability to adapt and overcome seemingly impossible odds. Moreover, humans operated largely outside the galactic power structures that had been compromised by the conspiracy. A human working alone could go places and do things that would be impossible for more established species. Marcus's skills as a mechanic, combined with his access to salvage technology and his location in the galactic frontier, made him uniquely qualified for the task ahead. Kyreth wanted Marcus to become something unprecedented, a human guardian for the sleeping Ashkari. The proposition was staggering. Marcus would need to travel across the galaxy, locating hidden hibernation sites and protecting them from those who would exploit their occupants. It would mean leaving behind his quiet life in the scrapyard, venturing into dangers he could barely imagine. But it would also mean becoming part of something larger than himself, helping to preserve wisdom that could benefit all sentient life. The decision, when it came, felt inevitable. Marcus had spent his life fixing broken things, bringing hope back to what others had given up on. The sleeping Ashkari were just broken things on a cosmic scale, and someone needed to fix them. "I'll need help," Marcus said. "Knowledge, resources, allies who can be trusted." Kyreth's response came as a warm pulse of approval. The dragon began sharing practical information. The locations of several hibernation sites, techniques for safely awakening Ashkari, and most importantly, the neural patterns that would identify those corrupted by the conspiracy. The dragon also offered something unexpected: partnership. Kyreth's people had developed biotechnology that could enhance human capabilities without compromising their essential humanity. Marcus could be given improved reflexes, enhanced endurance, and most crucially, limited telepathic abilities that would allow him to communicate with awakened Ashkari. The enhancement process was unlike anything in human medicine. Kyreth's scales began to glow with soft bioluminescence as it called upon abilities dormant in its weakened state. The dragon breathed on Marcus's hands, and where its breath touched, his skin began to change. The alteration was subtle, but profound. Organic nanoscale machines that would gradually integrate with his nervous system over the coming days. Marcus felt the changes beginning immediately. His vision became sharper, able to detect electromagnetic spectrums beyond normal human range. His hearing expanded to catch frequencies used by various alien species. Most remarkably, he began to sense the emotional states of living beings around him, a crude form of the telepathic abilities that came naturally to the Ashkari. With the enhancement begun, Kyreth turned its attention to practical matters. Using the organic manufacturing capabilities built into its own biology, the dragon began producing tools and devices that would aid their mission. Weapons that could disable alien technology without harming organic tissue. Scanners capable of detecting hibernating Ashkari from orbit. Most importantly, a communication device that would allow Marcus to contact other Watchers, if any still survived. The equipment emerged from specialized glands in Kyreth's wings, each device grown rather than manufactured. The technology was living, capable of self-repair and adaptation. Marcus marveled at the seamless blend of biology and engineering, understanding now why the Ashkari had been so successful for so long. Their first target was a hibernation site in the Procyon cluster, only 3 days' travel from the scrapyard. Kyreth's memories indicated that 12 Ashkari slept there in a facility hidden inside a supposedly barren asteroid. Recent intelligence suggested that Zarathai research teams were moving toward the location. Marcus spent the next day preparing for departure. He selected one of the more reliable ships from his salvage collection, a human-built exploration vessel with modifications from 6 different species. The ship was fast, well-armed, and, most importantly, anonymous enough to avoid unwanted attention. Kyreth proved to be an excellent co-pilot, its natural understanding of multidimensional space making faster-than-light navigation remarkably smooth. The dragon had recovered much of its strength, though it would be months before it returned to full health. Still, having an Ashkari ally made Marcus feel more confident about the impossible task ahead. The journey to Procyon gave them time to plan and for Marcus to adjust to his enhanced abilities. The telepathic sensitivity was particularly challenging, requiring careful mental discipline to avoid being overwhelmed by the emotional states of every living being they encountered. Kyreth proved to be a patient teacher, helping Marcus develop the mental techniques needed to control his new capabilities. They arrived at the asteroid field to find it already under surveillance. 3 ships lurked among the rocks, their configuration clearly Zarathi. Marcus's enhanced senses could detect the alien crew's excitement and anticipation. They had found something and were preparing to extract it. The hibernation facility was hidden deep within the largest asteroid, accessible only through passages that would challenge even experienced miners. The Zarathi had brought specialized equipment for the job, robotic probes capable of navigating the narrow tunnels. Within hours, they would reach the sleeping Ashkari. Marcus and Kyreth had one advantage. They understood the facility's design. The hibernation chambers were protected by systems that would respond only to Ashkari biological signatures. The Zarathi would need time to bypass these safeguards, time that could be used to mount a rescue operation. The plan they developed was typically human in its audacity. Rather than trying to fight 3 ships with superior numbers and technology, they would turn the Zarathi's own capabilities against them. Marcus would infiltrate the facility while the aliens were distracted by their extraction efforts, awakening the sleeping Ashkari and preparing them for evacuation. Kyreth would remain with the ship, ready to provide support and coordinate escape routes. The dragon's telepathic abilities could maintain contact even through the asteroid's interference, ensuring Marcus wouldn't be operating blind. The infiltration went smoothly at first. Marcus's enhanced abilities made him remarkably suited for stealth work, able to detect alien patrol patterns and avoid contact. The Zarathi were focused entirely on their extraction efforts, confident that they had arrived undetected. The hibernation chambers lay at the asteroid's heart, 12 crystal pods arranged around a central control node. The sleeping Ashkari were beautiful even in hibernation, their scales dim, but still showing hints of the same luminescence that marked Kyreth. They looked peaceful, unaware of the danger approaching from above. Marcus activated the awakening sequence using the techniques Kyreth had taught him. The process was gradual, requiring careful monitoring to avoid shocking the hibernating nervous systems. One by one, the Ashkari began to stir, their scales brightening as consciousness returned. The first to awaken was an ancient female, whose scales held the deep blue of ocean depths. Her eyes opened to reveal intelligence older than human civilization, immediately assessing the situation with startling clarity. Through the telepathic link Marcus had developed, she understood everything: the conspiracy, the threat above, and the human who had come to help. Her response was immediate and devastating. With a thought, she activated defenses that had lain dormant for millennia. The asteroid itself became a weapon, gravitational fields shifting to trap the Zarathi ships while energy discharges disabled their systems. In moments, the threat was neutralized. The other Ashkari awakened quickly after that, their combined consciousness creating a network of unimaginable power and wisdom. They examined Marcus with curiosity and growing respect, recognizing in him something their people had long hoped to find: a human worthy of their trust. The evacuation proceeded smoothly with 12 ancient beings working in concert. The Ashkari had capabilities that made human technology seem primitive by comparison, able to manipulate matter and energy through pure thought. Within hours, they had prepared a new sanctuary in a location known only to themselves. But before departing, the eldest Ashkari had a gift for Marcus that would change everything. She touched his forehead with one scaled finger, downloading into his enhanced mind the locations of every remaining hibernation site in the galaxy. The knowledge came with a weight of responsibility that nearly overwhelmed him. "You have proven yourself, young guardian," she communicated telepathically. "Your species shows more promise than we dared hope. We entrust to you the safety of our sleeping kin, knowing that human courage will succeed where others have failed." As the Ashkari departed for their new sanctuary, Marcus found himself changed by more than just biological enhancement. He had become something new, humanity's first interstellar guardian, protector of ancient wisdom and enemy of those who would exploit it. Kirith settled on his shoulder as they prepared to depart for their next target. The dragon's presence was both comfort and reminder of the magnitude of their task. Across the galaxy, nearly 1,000 Ashkari slept undefended, and the conspiracy moved to claim them. But humanity had entered the equation now, and Marcus Chen carried with him all the stubborn determination his species was known for. The galaxy's ancient guardians would not face extinction alone. They had humanity on their side, and that changed everything. The real adventure was just beginning.